Recording has started. Shalom and good day, everyone. We're coming before you today because we have a great lesson to share with y'all today. So from one of the most high ancient prophet known as Enoch. And he is one of the prophets will give you greater understanding when you're studying the lights that was made in the heavens to give us understanding on how we keep time. Okay. Going back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, which is the foundation. So the subtitle of this lesson, which is part 4, because we're still in First Enoch chapter 73, is the moon portions or parts of light and its phases. That's what we're going to look at today. The moon portions or parts of light, of its light and her phases. Okay. But first, we're going to open up in prayer. I do want to mention this. Some of y'all are going to look at Enoch chapter 73 and say, oh, it's only 8 verses. Well, y'all, those 8 verses are very, it has a lot. And it's not as simple as you think it is, okay? So today's lesson is going to greatly help you with understanding what those 8 verses are telling you. Please watch the other parts because today is part 4. So please watch other parts to get the mystery or the message that Enoch was given unto us. Remember, the Father gave us his prophets and we should listen to his prophets, okay? So we're going to open up in prayer first. So let us face the east. I ask that my brothers uncover their head, and I ask my sisters to cover your head, and our sister Nay is going to open up for us in prayer. For those who don't have understanding about the uncovering and the covering of the hair, right now you're under the new covenant until you get understanding. The Spirit will teach you those things. But remember, the physical or the carnal go hand with the spiritual. This is why the Father commanded us to do these things, because a lot of people don't understand that there are spiritual things attached to this earthly realm and why we do what we do. Okay, all these things are to give us life that should lead us to eternal life. Okay, so for those who don't know where east is where you see the first light rising in the heaven. It's also the area where the sun will rise, for the sunrise in the eastward direction. Now, as far as the east point, it's only 2 times in a year that the sun will rise on the east point, and that's during your spring and your fall equinox. Okay, Sister Nay, go ahead and lead us in prayer.
Yes. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forget our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, amen.
So be it. Thank you, my sister. Okay, let's begin because we got lots to talk about, y'all. Lots to talk about. So for those who have read First Enoch chapter 73, let me share my screen. Okay, let me see here. So those who have read First Enoch chapter 73, you may have ought to find out there's some things that's kind of hard in there to understand. Okay, now there's mysteries and codes that's written all these sacred books, such as the King James 1611, First, Second, Third Enoch's writings, the work of Josephus, Jubilees, Jasper, etc. Okay, so you will need the Spirit of Yah to help you break the code or to see the message that's written by his prophets, okay? As written in John chapter 14, chapter 15, chapter 16, and 1 John chapter 2, verse 27. And if you don't have that oil in you, which is the Holy Spirit, you're not going to understand these things, okay? So again, in all things, we have to seek our Father in understanding. So what you see before you, this is the Hebrew version of how the moon phases should be presented unto you, because you know the Gentiles don't follow the ways of the Most High. They follow what these principalities, these power of darkness has given unto their forefathers, okay? So they pass on to them. But this is the correct way to look at the moon phases. Because the beginning of the month or on the moon, according to the prophets now, I'm talking about the prophets writing. I ain't talking about somebody book or somebody looking to heaven and trying to put two things together out of their own thought or idea, because the Messiah told us you have the prophets. So when you stand before your Father in heaven in his day of court, what's going to justify you? His prophets. All right. So the correct moon phases, as you see, and I want to blow this picture up. Let me see, can I blow it up? So y'all can really see this. There we go. Your beginning of the moon phase should start with the moon crescent, that silver that we see in the heaven. Remember, the Father is what? He's the Father of light, and he always would give us a sign so there won't be no confusion, okay, to see what is the beginning of the month or when has the month started. He always would give you a visible sign to see in the heavens. Okay, because for those who study about the dark moon, we know that the dark moon can be 1 to 2 days. So there can be some confusion where it started, but with the silver crescent, it's no confusion. Now, I am aware of what Prophet Enoch's writings. However, through his prophets, he has given us formers to confirm. But what I'm trying to give you is something like a physical or a concrete example that the Father is not a Father of confusion. You have to go back to the foundation. He said, what? These lights shall be sign unto you. So we start our day in light and end our day with light. Makes sense. Then the next phase of the moon, we have a waxing half moon. That means that moon is increasing in light. But with this phase, she's only about 50% illuminated. Then she works herself up to being a full moon. That's in the mid part of the month. Do you see how the Father works? He got a phase for you in the first week. Now he got a phase for you in the second week. And the crescent is the what? Uno, one, new moon day, representing what? 11. Do you see how the Father works? Okay, let us keep going. Then once you become that full moon, she starts to decrease herself in light as Ezra, the high priest of Israel, have written. When she do that, she's letting you know that is the mid part of the month, when she's starting to decrease herself. This is the mid part of the month when she's a full moon. And then after that phase, she starts to decrease herself in light, which leads us to the third week of the month. And that's when she's a half moon. And she's about 50% illuminated. Then within the fourth week of the month, she is continuing decreasing herself or continue waning herself in light till she become a crescent. And when we see that crescent in the heavens, y'all, it's let us know that the month is soon ending. And then the last phase of her, as the prophet Enoch has written, is when she has no light upon her. She is dark, signifying unto us that is the end of the month. So that is the correct way. This is the Hebrew way. This was passed down from the forefathers, by Adam, Noah, Abraham, now to Jacob, the righteous lineage. Okay. All right, let's get this out of the way because we might run into some copyright things. And this is only for educational purposes when I share copyright material with you. Let me see where I'm at. Oh, no wonder I was too far down. Okay. And today's title, this is probably either part 4 or part 5. Just check on the channel for the correct thing. This was today we're going to be in the moon portions or parts of light. I should put B. And her phases. Now that we have that out the way, we got to give y'all the date because it's important that we have the date. But before we get into the date, let me show y'all some pictures because y'all gonna love this lesson today. Yes, there is some math involved today. Math involved. So for my family, I'm gonna copy and paste this chart because it's gonna help us to understand about the moonlight. Okay, about the moonlight. Okay, because remember we're dealing with what? Fractions. We're dealing with a pie that has what? Slices. So we can understand the portions of the moonlight. All right. Then I have another picture for you. Again, in math, it helps for us to have an example to understand these mathematical formulas or calculations, or when we're dealing with portions or parts of the moonlight. Because as we learned in the prior lesson, the moon get a portion of her light from the sun because he is first, right? So he is greater than the moon. So a part of his light is put in her. Now, as I'm saying this, y'all, it should be sending some bells or some whistles off or some light bulbs should be going off right now because just to take you back to the beginning of Genesis. The same that is displayed in the heaven was done unto Adam. Did not the Father put his light in Adam, which is his spirit? Mysteries, y'all. Okay. And then the last, let's see if I have enough. Yeah, here's another picture. So that's what we'll be looking at. We're going to be looking at parts and wholes and fractions, okay? Because the moon is in shape of what? A circle. A circle, all right? All right, let us date first, because that's the whole purpose of us coming together, because we're trying to understand the Father calendar. We've been around these heathens too long, learning the heathens' ways, which come from Satan and those fallen angels. And in order to understand the biblical prophecy, you cannot use the Roman calendar, which is today known as the Gregorian calendar. You have to have understanding of the Father's calendar. Okay. So as that's opened up, we are in the Hebrew month known as the fourth month. I know some of y'all can say, wait a minute, I thought it was the fifth month. Remember, we don't follow behind the Jewish who are known as what YAHUAH in the Hebrew tongue. Remember, they have the doctrines of the Pharisees. And even Josephus would tell you that the Pharisees didn't follow everything in Torah. Go back and read the gospel on how they kept Passover in comparison how the Messiah kept Passover. Remember, the Messiah is Torah. He kept every part of it, cross every T and dot every I. But the Pharisees was the children of Satan. They didn't keep Torah. They mixed Torah with the traditions of their forefathers which came out of Egypt. Go back to the history of things. You will see where these things come from. We also come from what? Satan and those fallen angels. All right, let's get the date. Now, the heathen date today is July the 31st in the year of 2021 AD. Far as the time, according to their time, we in the 1:06 p.m. hour. I'm on Eastern Standard Time here. However, they're keeping daylight saving time, but we who are the children of the light, okay, we know the correct time is in the 12 o'clock hour. Big difference. We follow the heavens. We don't follow the ways of the heathens, okay? So we know when we start our day, we just start our day a little early because of what the heathens have going on. We're in the fourth beast kingdom. All right, so this is July the 31st, and we're in the daylight phase of the day. So we are in the 21st day of the moon. Far as the biblical event, this is Moses' 32nd night and 33rd daylight or day in Mount Sinai. And we are counted towards Pentecost, which is the 42nd day of the 50th count. And on this day, the moon is going to be decreasing herself in light, should be about 50%. And this phase occur on July the 31st in the year of 2021 AD at 4:15 p.m. in Israel Daylight Savings Time. As far as the day of the sun, it is the sun's fifth month and night day. And The day of the moon falls on the heathen day, which is what the day of the moon is the 21st. So it falls on the heathen day of July 30th, starting at sundown, ending on July 31st at sundown. Remember the Father, He's the Father of light. With the Romans calendar, they are the children of darkness. Therefore, they start that day from darkness to darkness, which is midnight to midnight. That is one of the biggest differences. So this is known as the preparation day. So we will be prepping today for the Shabbat that will be coming in today at sundown. Take this time now to pause your screen to get that information. And this FYI, if you have not studied about this biblical event that has just passed already, on day 17 of the moon, this is when we have the daily sacrifice to cease, fulfilling the biblical prophecy that was written by Daniel in chapter 9. Okay. And this was done by the hands of the Romans. So to read about that, you can find that in YAHUAH chapters, we're book 6, chapter 2, number 1, under section 93. Okay, so check that out. As far as in the book of Daniel, you can find it in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. That's a little history lesson for you. And for those who are puzzling why we are in the 4th month and not in the 5th month, the prophet has spoken. He has given his formulas. So we had a 13th month added in the year of 2020 to 2021. Like I say again, the heathen's day will confuse you. Now let me give you the year, because the Most High year is different from the heathen's year, y'all. We follow from the days of Adam. So 3 of us been keeping up with time. Okay. Again, remember the heathens don't do it like the way the Most High do it. So according to what I have so far, we are in the 8th day from Adam. Brother Hashur calculations and Beta Israel, known as the Jews of Ethiopia, will also confirm this too. We are in the 8th day from Adam. And the 8th day from Adam start on the 7,001st year, ending on the 8,000th year. Remember, a day unto the Most High is 1,000 years. So when I convert that time from Adam to the time from when creation started, we are in the 13th day of creation. And according to Enoch's 10-week prophecy, we will fall in the 8th week of his prophecy. As you see, y'all, time is winding down. Soon our Father kingdom will come. Soon the Messiah shall reign for his millennium, getting this earth in check and put it back into the hands of the righteous. All right, check the video description box so you have access to this calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. So we got lots to talk about. I remember last time I told you I would come back and talk about verse 5 to clarify one thing. Now, let me tell you about Enoch's writings. He has a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd writing. I'm going to tell y'all. With his writings, just like with the Bible, you're going to have to read the book, because these parts are scattered out to understand the bigger picture. Okay. So I told you I would come back to clarify some things unto you dealing with verse 5. But what I'm going to do first, before I start on that, I'm going to have my readers, because what I found with this particular chapter, it is best to read the whole chapter first, then go back, take your notes and break it down. Okay. Again, I'm going to say this again. It is best to read this whole chapter first, then go back and break the verses down. And even on top of that, the Father's reminded me that you're still going to have to read the other chapters that pertain to the lights, the sun, the moon, and the stars, which is Mazarah, to really understand what this chapter is saying unto you, because I'm going to tell y'all, it's a hard chapter. It's a hard chapter. Well, how can I say? It's hard when you don't have the information you need to break it down. That's why it's hard. But when you have the information you need, you begin to understand what this chapter is saying unto you. All right, I'm going to head to the book of Enoch. So my readers, reader 1, I'm going to first have you read verse 5, and then I'm going to come in after you. And then to my next reader, get prepared. I'm going to have you read the next one after. But I'm going to give you the cue. All right, reader 1, let me blow this up first, because I want to make sure our brothers and sisters can see this. Reader 1, read verse 5 for me.
And the 1/2 of her goes out by the 7th part, and her whole disk is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it. and the 14th part of her light.
Okay, so in this verse, I'm going to clarify unto you what is that 14th part of her light. Okay, because I remember when I did some math, I show you a light that has the 14th part, but to give you heads up, it's dealing with units. There's some units we got to look at because it's two separate units we're dealing with here. All right. Okay, now reader 2, read verse 6 for me.
And when she receives 1/7 part of the part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part.
Pause. Start over for me, sis.
Okay, sorry. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part and the half thereof.
Now I know when some of y'all read this verse, what in the world this thing talking about? What is 1/7 part of the half of her light? We're gonna talk about that. Okay. Reader 3, read verse 7.
Okay. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him and receives the half of one part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the beginning of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and it's invisible that night with the 14 parts and a half of one of them.
All right. Key word in verse 7. We're going to talk about this. We're going to define what is the half one part of light. And we're going to break down what is the 14 parts and a half one of them. And then we're going to break down this verse to see what phase of the moon that does this. Okay. Now to read 1, I will have you to read verse 8.
And she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part, and comes out and recedes from the rising of the sun. And in her remaining days, she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts.
Okay. So in this verse, we're going to define what is exactly a 7 part. Because again, this is based on unit, and we're already thinking about the sun, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not about the sun. Okay. We're also going to define what phase that does this, as far as what phase is the moon in when she rises on that day and when she comes out and recedes from the rising of the sun. We're going to define that. And then lastly, we're going to break down what does this mean that in the moon remaining days, she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. So it's a lot of math involved in this today. All right, let us begin. Let's go to the notes. So in verse 5, I did say I would come back and define about this 14th part, and I'm glad I did, because I know in the prior video, I gave y'all the breakdown of the moonlight when she's a half moon. Oh, it's in verse 5, I'm about to go up. Okay. I gave y'all the breakdown. In other words, I did some math and I converted the portion of the moon's light when she's a half moon to see how much light she is in comparison to the sun. So with that calculation that I did, it may confuse you with the following verses below. And this is what I'm saying unto you. We have to look at units now. We have to look at if it's talking about 1/7 part light of the sun or 1/7 part light of the moon's light. That's what we got to look at. Okay. So when we look at verse 5, let me scroll back up. Verse 5 is actually giving us a breakdown of some moon phases here. That's what verse 5 is actually doing. And I know the way it's worded, it seemed very confusing. Very confusing. So let me scroll down I'm going to tell you what I added first to these notes. Okay, so I did make some updates. One of the updates are, I found this picture because for my students, I want you to pay attention where you see the light on the moon. Now, I do know she will turn herself, she will rotate herself where her light would seem like a bowl unto you, or where the light would be on the top part or the bottom part. But especially when the moon is straight, okay, where she's not turned, she's not, on the bottom, in other words, I want you to pay attention what side the light is on her. Because when you see the light that's upon her, on what side of the moon is on her, all right, it will help you to know what part of the month you are in. Such as, we know with the new moon crescent, usually the light when the moon is looking at you in this direction, okay, she's not turning, in other words, she's not a bowl. Usually that light will be on the right side of the moon. You face it. And that's the same thing when the moon increasing in light when she's a half moon, that light is on the right side, okay? And as she grows, which are called a waxing gibbet, notice how the light is going from the right side to your left side until she becomes a full moon. Then after the full moon phase, she's going to start decreasing in light, and notice that the light, in other words, the darkness come upon the moon on the right side. So your light would be on the left side when you facing the moon. So I want you to start paying attention to that, to my family who are watching the heavens. Very important. Okay. The next thing for homework for my family, I want you to pay attention on how bright she is and the color of her light. Like for me, some nights when I'm driving, I noticed that, like for this month, towards the end of the month, when I faced the moon, her light was on the left side and she was more like a red hue. Yeah, 2 nights, it was more like a red hue. A red hue. You know how just like the sun going down, you see the different color changes in the heavens? Well, that's the same thing with the moon. So I want you to start paying attention to what color she is and how bright her light is, and where her light is on the moon. Is it on the left or on the right? Again, all these things will give you greater understanding about where you were at in the month, and it will help you understand Enoch's writings. Okay. Then as you see, I added the correct Hebrew moon phases in the correct order. Because as you see with the Gentiles, they want to start the beginning of the moon month with a dark moon. And you know our Father is the Father of light. He's not the Father of darkness. The Father of darkness is Satan. We don't follow behind the heathens. Okay. So I also include that in the notes as well. Now, I did reword this. This comes from verse 5, because in verse 5, it said the half of the moon goes out or forth by a 7th part. Okay. So half of the moon light goes out. I mean, half of her light goes out, which is representing your half moon that is decreasing in light, which is what? Your waning half moon. Your waning half moon. Okay. So I went back and clarify that sentence to make it clear. Now for the breakdown of verse 5. So we know from 1 Enoch chapter 73 verse 3, when you have a full moon, the full moon equals to 1/7 part of the light of the sun. And this is very important. You got to know your units. When we're talking about the light of the sun, your fractions may be, what's the word I can say? It can be larger or about the same when we do the fractions of the moon. But right now, this is talking about the sun. The sun. So that is your unit. So in verse 5, it's letting you know after the full moon, okay, After the full moon, now the moon is going to decrease herself in light. So she's become a half moon. That's why that's why Joseph Lickman chose to write these words are saying go out. Her light goes out. Okay. Half moon goes out. So half of her light goes out by a 7 part. Okay. And what it's talking about, that 7 part is dealing with this unit. And the unit is 1/7 part of the sun's light. That's what it's dealing with. Now you're seeing why you got to read each verse and take your time and write your notes. Okay. Do everyone understand that part?
Yes, sis.
Yes.
Okay. Then this verse is giving you the next moon phase, which is what? An empty moon disk, which is the dark moon. Okay. Now, this is the thing about English. Following after that, it's going to trip you up. It's going to throw this word called exception. And we know exception means to be excluded, which basically means that on these next 2 phases that are mentioned in this verse, it doesn't follow under the dark moon command or rule, because these next 2 phases is dealing with light. Okay, dealing with light, because we know that 1/7 part of the sun's light is dealing with the moon being full of light. So in other words, she takes a slice of pie from the sun, and when the moon takes a slice of pie from the sun, going back to the apple pie right here, she takes a slice, right? Imagine this whole pie have 7 slices, and out of these 7 slices, the moon gonna take a slice of pie from the sun, or a slice of light from the sun, and that is enough light for the moon to be a full moon. To be a full moon, very important to know. So when she does that, when I convert the moonlight or the full moonlight to the sun's light, it is 1/7 part. 1/7 part. Now, when we get to the 14th part of the moon's light, okay, see how that unit changed? We're no longer dealing with the unit of the sun's light. Now we're going to the unit of the moon's light. This is why these verses can be very confusing, because if you don't know what unit it's talking about, it can get you it can get you confused. Okay. So this is where the precepts come in. Precept upon precept, line upon line. So one of the precepts that's in 1st Enoch is chapter 78, verse 6. For it says this, and when the moon rises, 1/14 part appears in the heaven. And then it goes on to say, in addition to that, on the 14th day, the moonlight becomes full. Do y'all see now? It's giving you some math, or giving you a fraction. Okay. So to break down this verse, when we look at 1st Enoch chapter 78, verse 6, what phase is this sentence talking about when the moon rises? What do y'all think that phase is? Let me throw some hints to you. Looking at the prior verses and looking at this verse, it's giving us a clue. It said that on the 14th day, she's the full moon, right? Then on the prior verses, verse 3 talks about her being a full moon. Then verse 4 talks about new moon day, which is the new moon crescent. And then verse 5 talks about half moon, dark moon, full moon, and new moon crescent. But your biggest clue in this scripture right here is telling us that on the 14th day that the moonlight becomes full, aka full moon. So what is she if she's 1/14 part, y'all?
The crescent.
The new crescent.
Y'all on it. Y'all on it. Okay. So she is the new moon crescent.
Yes, half 14.
Now these are codes. Okay, so well, y'all have notes, okay, but these are codes. So in your notes, you need to write that down to the side, because y'all, this is going to help you to understand verse 6, 7, and 8. These are codes. Okay, so the fraction 1/14 represents new moon crescent, because the unit that we're dealing with is the moon light. So right now we're going to put the sunlight on the whole right now. So now we're dealing with the moonlight. All right, good job, y'all. Good job. Which brings us to this calendar. Most of us are familiar with this calendar. We see this on the internet, okay? Unfortunately, I wish they labeled it correctly, because we know, according to Genesis 1:14, this is actually these creator solar, lunar, and Mazzaroth calendars. 3 lights involved in this calendar. But unfortunately, we don't see that being properly displayed. However, remember we're talking about parts and wholes, right? This verse is already giving us a hint. And we ought to know that Enoch told us about what is a full moon day. I want to see if y'all remember. What day can we have a full moon?
The 14th day.
14th day. And what else? According to the prophet Enoch.
The end of the month?
14 or
15th day. Yeah.
15.
She
14
right. Yeah,
or 15. Why is that? Because we have 2 festivals that will always, or should, according to the laws or commandments, should fall on a full moon day. What are the 2 festivals?
Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, or Feast Tabernacle. Sorry, Feast Tabernacle.
Correct. Passover, Peshat, and the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Do you see how all this stuff is lining up? Okay. So because we're dealing with fraction now, parts and wholes, right? When the moon is perfect, how many days does she have in her month?
30 or 31.
30.
29 days.
30 days, right? Now,
Yeah.
when she's not perfect, how many days will she have?
Would it be 29?
31.
29.
Speak up.
29.
29.
29. All right, I'm going to throw this at you. According to the prophet Enoch, we was doing those calculations in 1st Enoch chapter 74, how many days does she actually have when we do the actual timing of her? Let's see if somebody remember that.
Was it
It's very important.
and a half or something?
Was it 3?
That's right.
Half, 3 and a half. Yeah.
That's right. 29 and a half. You're going to see how this is all coming together. Okay. Now, because we're dealing with parts and wholes, why do you think in this verse it chose to represent the new crescent moon, or which is the new moon day? Why did it choose to represent it with 1/14? I'm gonna go back to this calendar here. Why do you think that? Because we know, according to this verse here, it's saying the full moon day is the 14th day. So why do you think it chose to represent the new moon day as 1/14 of the moon's light? I gotta make sure I use my own units.
Because it's the first silver of light.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's
it's dealing with first, which is what number? What number we're dealing with?
1.
1. Now we're dealing with parts over whole. So how many days it takes to be a full moon day?
7.
14.
14, right? That's your
14.
total.
Okay.
Remember, we're dealing with parts over whole.
Oh,
now,
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about when the calendar. I'm sorry.
Okay. Parts over whole, right?
Yes.
So the total number we're dealing with is 14. How they get 1/14? How they get that, y'all?
I think they took slice like half of 7. If you slice that up, it'd be like 14. Like math,
Counting the day.
Okay, you go into that calculation I did. But if you didn't know how to do all that, if I know my pie has 14 slices, and it's saying to me that the new moon day is 1/14 of it, what did that mean with that pie?
One slice of the
One slice
14.
of it, or one of the
Slice
days.
That's
of
right.
pie.
It took one slice of pie from the 14 total slices, right? So if I take one slice of pie if I take one slice of pie, let me see, can I find me a chart here? I don't know if I'm gonna have 14 in that one. Let me see what else I can find. Let me go to this one then. I have one up here. This is 14 slices. So if I take one slice of pie, and we deal with fractions, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And a fraction is parts over whole. So if I take one slice of pie, take one slice of pie from a 14th slice pie, what would that fraction look like?
It should be
114.
13.
Huh?
It should be like
114.
13 units left. So it'd be 1.
Huh?
13. It'd be like
13 units
13
left.
units left. Like
I said, what would that
14.
fraction look like?
114.
1/14. Do y'all see it?
yes.
Yes.
So what it's saying of the moonlight, now we're talking about moonlight. This is a moon right here. Okay? Of the moonlight, we're going to divide her light into what? 14 slices. Why? Because it takes her what? 14 days to become full, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, make sure y'all there now. So because it took her 14 days to become a full moon, we're going to say it took 14 slices of light to make her full. But on the new moon day, she's not what? 14 slices, because she's not full. She's a sliver of light. So for that sliver of light, they took a slice of pie out of the 14. And that's how we got this fraction. Do y'all see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Very important to know. And what unit we in?
114.
The moon.
What unit are we in? Very important to know. What's our unit? Look at the screen.
The moon. The moonlight.
The moon's light. Very important to know. Do y'all see that? It's very, get that part separated. So for the moon's light, what we're doing, we comparing light from the first day to the 14th day of the moon. So when we compare the new moon's daylight to the full moon daylight, the new moon is 1/14. 1/14. But on a full moon day, what will her light be as a fraction?
114.
1.
You said of a full moon?
Yes. On a full moon's day,
Would it
what
be
will her
1/7.
light be as a fraction?
1 like
1/7.
a whole? Because it's like
That's
14 over 14.
that's
but it'd be
converting it
1.
to the sun's light. But for the moon's light, I'm doing that unit now. What will her light be in a fraction?
It'd
If
be
the pie is
1/7.
14 over 14, which
14 over 14, there you go.
then I guess that
Which we
goes
know
into
is what?
1.
1, and
Yeah,
1
1
represent
whole.
what? A whole pie.
whole day. Yeah, a whole pie.
Y'all getting some math today. Very important, because now we getting some, in other words, how can I say this? Clues. Clues. All right. So we got that part. I'm gonna copy and paste this and bring it down. Now you understand this, where they getting this from. Now we understand 1 Enoch chapter 78, verse 6. Now we know where they get the 1/14th part light from, and how they get the full moon to be a full moon on the 14th day. We see that connection now. Okay. Another word for full moon or full of light is accomplished. You will see them use that word interchangeably when you read Charles' transliteration. All right. Here's the chart I've been working on for y'all. Let me decrease the percentage so y'all can see this. And try to make it too small. There we go. Parts / or you can say parts, or you can say portions of the moon's light based on a 14th day. Okay? This is based on a 14th day. We'll put 14 days. Okay? So by us knowing two things, we know the new moon. See how I have here phases of the moon going across. We know the new moon is 1/14 of light. And we know the full moon is what? 14 over 14 represent a whole, a pie, because she's full of light.
Mm.
Okay, we're gonna break down the rest of these numbers, because you're gonna see where I got all this other stuff from. Okay, so on the side, the category of the sides are phases of moon, days of the moon, which in other words, give you a moon date. Like this is day 1, day 2, day 3. I need to replace this. This should be parts. Let me scroll down. I got to copy and paste something, y'all. All right, this is giving us parts of light per day. Parts, I can't even how to see this word. Parts of light, I should put parts of moonlight per day. So you know we're still dealing with the moon. We put moonlight per day. Again, this is another way to write down parts of light, parts of moonlight, or let me change this, portions, because I'm dealing with decimal numbers. And this part would be here, the day. Yeah, that should be the day of the parts of light. This right here is dealing with the day. Nope, that'd be double. I'm gonna leave it like the way it is. Sorry about that, guys. Then this part here is fractions. And then what we learned in math, we're going to simplify the fraction, which is very important. Okay. And then this last category is dealing with the part of the sunlight, how we convert the moonlight to the sunlight. Like we want to see how much of the sunlight that moon phase is. That's the last part. But I want y'all to notice a common theme that our Father had. Notice that he works. When we look at parts and whole, when we look at the whole, he deals with the number 7, 7, 7. That's the constant theme that I see throughout these numbers. 7. For it's not the sun 7 times brighter than the moon. Is not the moon 1/7 brighter to the sun when she's full. Do y'all see that? So we see that theme of 7 being used, and we know 7 represent perfection, rest, which is Shabbat, and sanctification. There's a mystery about that number. So I'll list some important facts, but I think let us go down first before we talk about the important facts and come back to this chart. We already talked about the 14 slices. Okay, so we did that in the above. I think I'm going to move that statement down here with that. It goes better together. So first we're going to talk about the portions of light. The portions of light. And since we already read verse 6, 7, and 8, I will be going out of order for right now. I know you probably say, oh Lord, why is she going out of order? We're going to have to. We'll come back to 6. So with the portion of the light, you will get this information from verse 7. Reader 2, can you read this verse right here?
Which one? Which one again?
7.
7. Okay. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half of one part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the beginning of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is invisible that night when with the 14th part and the half of one of them.
Okay. We got to break this down to understand that chart. So you can see where I got these numbers from. All right, let's break this verse down. She sets with the sun. So the moon is going down with the sun. I want you to envision that in your mind. The moon is going down when the sun go down. So your question you should ask yourself as this sentence goes on to say, when the sun rises, the moon rises with him. Based on all the verses we read above, because we didn't read 6 yet, but from 1 to 5, what day does the sun rise? What day does the moon rise with the sun?
Was it the 7th day? No.
Huh?
Thursday?
Hmm?
I thought it was the 7th. Hold on.
First.
Okay, let me ask y'all this. What direction is the sun rising?
In the east.
The east.
Okay, so direction will be east.
Yes.
So what day will the moon rise with the sun in the east?
That's a good question.
That would be the first day.
First day.
First day, which is what?
The new moon day.
Noon day.
The new moon day. Very important. Now y'all see with all these verses why you got to write your notes because it's giving you clues.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
how it's written in English is not going to be detailed. It's going to expect you to know it.
Yeah, I ain't know that
It's going
part.
to expect you to know it.
Yeah, 'cause the Sabbath day.
Mhm.
The seventh day is the
It's
rest.
going to expect you to know it. Do y'all see how important this is?
Yes.
Okay. So this verse is telling us that she's going to set with the sun. And in addition to that, and when the sun rises, the moon is going to rise with him. And in addition to that, when she rises with him, she's going to receive the half of one part of light. Here we go. Parts and slices, right? So we're going to say the part is like a slice. Okay? We'll put this in here for our notes so you can remember this. This is how we're going to cheat, y'all. Oh, I need that. A part is equal to a slice of pie. I'm going to put a slice of pie so it can kind of like, connect the dots for you. But in this time, when she rises with the sun, she's going to get half of that slice of pie. Do y'all see that now? It said the moon receives the half of the one slice of pie of light. Do y'all see that? Can you envision that slice of pie being cut in half?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what unit are we talking about when we're talking about the light?
The moon light.
Hmm?
You talking about the moonlight unit?
The slice of
Let
the
us
light
read
of
this
the
sentence
sun.
again.
The slice of the light of the sun.
Okay, that's right. Light of the sun, right? So the moon is going to receive half of one part of light of the sun. So I'll write that down. Half of one part of the light of the sun. And I'm going to have to fold that. Now, I'm going to have to put this on the next line. No, I need to put it before it. What is, let me bring this up. What is the one part of the light of the sun? What's that part, y'all? All the verses above talked about that.
Can you repeat
See
the
that
question?
again?
I'm sorry.
Okay. What part or what slice of light of the sun the moon receives?
Oh, one.
114 or one.
One? Are you sure?
Like
Based on verse 1 through 5, what did we learn about the sun and the moon? About their lights and how much the moon received from the sun.
114.
What is the slice of light the moon received from the sun? Y'all got your notes?
17.
Pull them out.
17.
14.
17. Okay, there we go. There we go.
Okay.
Because we got to have that number, y'all.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in this verse, the way it's written, it says that the moon receives. Wait a minute. Oh, I go up. The moon receives half of that one part of light of the sun. So now we got to do some math, right? And what day she's on? She's receiving that light, y'all.
The 14th.
What's the 14th day, y'all?
The new moon. I mean, the full moon.
The full moon. So what y'all just told me a few minutes ago, y'all said when the moon rises with the sun in the east direction, it is the new moon day. So what is, make sure I'm trying to remember that question I was asking y'all. What is the phase of the moon that we're talking about?
The half
Full
moon.
moon.
Oh, the 14th, the full moon. But
Look at the notes on the screen. So we just defined it for this verse.
The new crescent.
That's right. The new moon day or the new moon crescent. I'm gonna put abbreviation NMC. NMC is the new moon crescent. So on what day is she receiving half of the one part of the light of the sun? What day is she receiving that?
The first day. The first day.
Okay, it's the first day. But what is the first day? Y'all just gave me the answer.
the new moon.
Look at the notes on the screen.
New
Y'all just gave.
crescent.
Would you
The new
say?
crescent. The new crescent.
Hmm?
Oh,
The new
The
moon.
new moon crescent is which is what?
The first day.
Which is what?
The first
First
day.
day. What else we say? What else we say?
New
One.
moon.
The
One.
new moon day.
Yep. New moon.
You're right. It's the first day. But most people say the new moon day. But we are making know
I was
it
about to
is what
say
the
like
first day.
114. Like 114. I was
Okay.
about to say that with the new moon.
Oh Lord, she done the math, y'all.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna show you how to do it though. You're right. It's the 114. So the half of the one part of light of the sun is this. We're gonna write out half in a number of, you know, the one part. We know what the one part of the light of the sun is, 1/7, right? Now, what y'all remember in
Yes.
this in math? Y'all remember anything what we have to do in math? What does the of represent? Do y'all remember? If not,
Times.
No.
times.
that's right, times, multiplication. So 1/2 times 1/7. And when we're done with fractions and multiplying them, they make it easy. So we multiply the top numbers together first. 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 7 is 14. The same answer they gave us in what? In this verse. First Enoch, chapter 78, verse 6. Do you see how these going together, precept upon precept? But it's worded different. But it's given us a very important measurement here. So half, another way to write half, what's another way to write half, y'all?
1/2.
1/2.
And 1/2.
That's the same thing.
Oh, same thing. Okay.
What's another way? Not only do we have
0.5.
fractions,
0.5.
0.5. That's right. And I can't type nothing today, right? Now you're going to get understanding of why I put in the chart 0.5. This is the date of the moon or days of the moon. On day 1, the portion of moonlight, yeah, the portion of moonlight per day. On her first day, she gets a half. Out of her total, she get, you know what I'm saying? Out of her total. Now, I put parts of moonlight, but it should be parts of sunlight. No, I'm going to leave it as parts of moonlight. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Okay, in verse 7, it was talking about what part. Okay. And then I converted in a fraction because we got it from verse First Enoch chapter 78, verse 6. And we see it again when we do First Enoch chapter 73, verse 7, 114. So we see all these verses confirming to us this is the new moon day, and it's letting us know the amount of light that she has upon her is 114. 114. This I may have to clarify. I'll probably have to redo because I'm thinking about my units of measure. So we'll come back and talk about that in the next class section. I need to confirm this to make sure I have it correct. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Let me see if there's anything else in this verse. So this verse going to say, because I know how it's worded, it's a little confusing. It said, in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the beginning of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun. So we know at the beginning, on that 30th day in the moon's month, what happens, y'all? She rises with the sun. Now we can't see her because she's the lesser light and the sun is the greater light. So as she's traveling with the sun, going from east to south to west, in the west direction, the sun is beginning to go down. So that's why you see this verse say open in the night. Okay, sun is going down. And as the sun is going down, you can see the new moon crescent. And we know we begin our day with what? Evening, going back to Genesis 1. Genesis 1. So this is part why you see that the night is in the beginning of her morning. Because we start from night, which is sundown, going to the next day. We're going to sundown. Are y'all seeing that?
Yes.
On the 30th day, I'm gonna say this again, on the 30th day of the moon, she rises with the sun. And we get that information from verse 4. Okay? Because as she's rising with him, she's getting light from the sun. Okay? And she traveled from east to south to west along with the sun. And once the sun starts going down at sundown, then you begin to see the new moon crescent. And this is why you see them wording it in English saying beginning of her morning. Okay? Because, the moon is the light of the night. I know it's English and it's confusing, but that's what it's saying. The moon is the light of the night. She's the ruler of the night. So she shines, for a certain period of time. And from sundown, or you could say from evening to evening, marks the beginning of the lunar day. And then she'll set with the sun again. Okay? Let's see what I have written. So at evening, which is night, sundown, in the beginning of the moon morning, in the beginning of the lunar day, the sun sets with the sun. Okay? So you will see her for a while in the west, and then she will set along with him. And that day again is the new moon crescent day, known as the new moon day, from sundown to sundown. Put this in red. From sundown to sundown is the lunar day, okay, or first day. First day of the moon. So the first day of the moon, you have the moon, the clarification. Let's put here C verse 4. Okay. Well, what it says here, the moon rises and sets with the sun on this day. So she start with him together from the east to the west. Okay. We'll put here after this sentence and see verse 4 too. Then in this same sentence, it gives us some more information. It says, in addition to, the moon is invisible that night, which is true, because once we see the new moon, can y'all see it anymore throughout the night?
No.
Can y'all see it anymore throughout the night?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Speak up so I can hear you.
No.
No. So here we have the prophet confirming to you why we can't see it. This is the law and the command the Father has given unto the moon when she's in her new phase or in her first day. Okay. So she's invisible at night because she went down with the sun. With the 14 parts and the half one of them. There it go again, y'all. So we need to break that part down. With the 14 parts and the half one of them. So when we translate this or convert this to the decimal number, because remember this word, 14 and a half is 14.5, okay? 14.5. So when she go down, we can't even see this part. She still has a remaining 14 parts and a half. 14 parts and a half to go. So to understand what is one of them, we know this is dealing with the moonlight. Because one of them is talking about the one part of the moon's light. Okay. Try to make sure I put the right label. I have another chart to go to, but to give you some idea of what this part is dealing with, I know on my new moon day, she gets what? A half of one part of the light. Okay. A half of the one part of the light. So looking at that verse is telling us we have a total of 14 and a half parts. 14 and a half parts. Looking at that verse. Okay. So what I did when I first read it, I had to meditate on this, y'all. I took 0.5 and added to itself, like for example, 2 times 0.5 or 2 or adding 0.5 twice would give me 1. 1. Same thing with 3. If I added 3 times, 1.5. That's what I did. So each day it's increasing by a half. A half. When I go to the next chart, it's going to show you that 14.5. Okay. Do everybody understand that part before we go on?
Yes, sister.
Y'all quiet, so I'm going to take that as a yes, or that you're going to meditate on this some more.
Yes. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I
I
said
just.
yes. I said
Can you
yes.
hear me?
I said yes. I said yes.
Okay. So when we look at on the new moon's day, on the first day, the moon receives a half of one part of light, meaning that we're going to add a half each day until the full moon day. Okay. Now the precept to really break that down, we got to go to First Enoch chapter 78, verse 7. So before I break that down, let me go to it first, y'all. I'm gonna have my reader. I think it's reader 3, right?
Yes.
To read this precept, because we're gonna understand the 14.5.
Okay. Oh, the one that's highlighted, right?
Yes.
Okay. It says, "In 15 parts of light are transferred to her until the 15th day, when her light is full, according to the sign of the year, and she becomes 15 parts, and the moon grows by an additional 14 parts."
Okay. If you had never read First Enoch chapter 73, some of us would have misinterpreted this verse. That's why it's so important that we read the prior chapters. Okay. And you'll see what I mean. So we're gonna break this down. Now we're not gonna break the verse entirely down because I want for y'all get there. I want y'all to meditate on it. So I'm gonna give you the answer to everything in this verse. I'm only gonna give you what we need to know. Okay. So this is the precept First Enoch chapter 78 is the precept to First Enoch chapter 73 verse 3. Okay, to really understand, sorry, my cursor, to understand the 14 parts and a half of one of them. Now this is English. The way they word it is confusing. I ain't gonna lie, I agree. It is confusing. All right. Even when I looked at Charles transliteration, okay? Because as you see, the word addition of is in parentheses. So if we didn't have that, it would say in the latter part of this verse that the moon grows by 14 parts. Okay. Now, when somebody read this, you would think you have to add another 14 parts. That's not what it's saying. This is why you have to look at the precepts. So let's begin to break this down. So when we read First Enoch chapter 78, verse 7, it says that 15 parts of light are transferred to her until the 15th day. So when we look at the calendar, I don't know if I did put the calendar right here. So when we look at the calendar, each day that the moon is traveling in her circuits, okay, she is getting a part of light for a total of 15 days. Okay, so a total of 15 days. And this light comes from where?
The sun. The sun. The sun.
The sun. Okay. Next question. The 15th day when her light is full, what did that mean, y'all? What did that mean that when her light is full?
I mean, like her whole light is shining, like it's
Brightest,
full
it's
of
real
brightness.
bright.
Right?
Like the sun.
Yes.
Like full,
And what
like
did we say?
full moon.
Yeah, I mean, all the things y'all saying is correct. But what's the
Illuminated.
what are two words that will sum all that up?
Full moon.
Full moon. There you go. So what this verse is basically telling us, on the 15th day of the month, she's a full moon. You probably say, why we got two different dates? It's gonna tell you why. There's another verse to this, but we're gonna see why we have variations of the months, like some months having 14, some months having 15. Okay, the Father have his reasons. So it goes on to say, according to the sign of the year, and she becomes 15 parts. So it's two requirements. You got to have the sign of the year, and she has to become 15 parts, meaning that she's a full moon by the 15th day. Now, I'm not going to give y'all what the sign of the year is. Y'all can meditate on that. We're going to wait till we get to 78. Y'all should be saying, I don't hear nothing.
That's a
I don't hear
lot.
nothing.
This is a lot.
I think I
But
might
some of
know,
y'all
but
should know the answer to that.
yeah,
Some
I
of
think
y'all
I
should know
know.
the
I
answer
think I
to that.
know. I think I know.
But don't say it. Don't say it for those who are watching at home. We're going to let them meditate on that. But the
I'm gonna
prophets
meditate
give
on
it
it.
to you. It's in the 1611, and it's also in Enoch. He give it to you. He do.
Wow.
Okay. But we're going to say that part for later. I'm just giving y'all the information you can understand the chart that I had. Okay. So according to the sign of year, and when she becomes 15 parts, that means she's full of light. She's a full moon. Then it goes on to say that the moon grows by an additional 14 parts. Now, I know the way this is written, you're thinking that you got to add another 14 to this. No, that's not what it's saying. Because when we precept this verse with verse 7 in 1 Enoch chapter 73, it's telling us what's the difference. That is 14 parts and a half. 14 parts and a half. Okay. Because when we look at this first chart, y'all, if y'all look right here, do y'all see 14 and a half? the it's still being recorded. Let me see, can I? There we go. It's still being recorded, y'all, the meeting. Okay, hold on. Ain't nothing wrong with my internet. Y'all know what's going on. So let me see what I can do on my end. But it's nothing wrong with the internet. But according to Zoom, the meeting is still being recorded. So y'all hold on, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna put myself on mute, guys. I'm gonna see, can I pull it up? Okay.
No problem, sis.
Oh yeah, recording is still on. I got to make changes. Let's see, share my screen. Okay, I get canceled. Let me go here. Share my screen. It's gonna take a while. Okay, so let me come out of this. Okay, did that. Sorry for that feedback, guys. It's nothing wrong with the internet. It's just the powers of darkness. That's all. So let me work on sharing my screen. Y'all can tell we're on to something today. They don't want y'all to know this information.
Yes.
But Father will be done. For those who watching with us, just bear with us. We're gonna get through this because y'all gonna want this information. All right, let me see. Can I get to share my screen? Now that part won't act funny, but I got a trick for you. If you don't want, I'm telling you. Let me bring this open. I have a trick for if they don't want me to go to my Google tab, I just bring it over to my Microsoft tab. They don't know how I work. I know how to work it. Okay, let me see here. Entire screen. See, my Google tab should be popping up. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna have to do. I have to share my screen. So with y'all, make sure you keep your face covered, because if I come over to the Zoom screen, it's gonna show whatever's up here. Okay, for those who want to keep their face covered, because it's not working right. So I got a trick for you. It's always more than one way to skin a cat. Ah, okay, so it won't let me do that. Let me go this way. Oh, shucks. It would have. I can't believe this. Is this something? It's something when I okay. It's something about when I go to Google. Somewhat with Google and this internet, they be tripping.
Mm.
Okay, let me see where I'm at. Okay, so I gotta come out of this and put this one.
Yeah, it's a lot of deep information that you are bringing out. It's a lot of deep
The
information.
father bringing it's a lot of deep information the father's bringing out, and I'm telling y'all, it's
Yes,
nothing wrong with this internet. It's nothing but the
I believe
powers of
you.
darkness.
Because every time
Because
we
I
go a step
noticed that.
higher,
Mhm.
every time when we go a step higher into the Most High, is always something it's blocking us from knowing.
Mhm.
It's always it.
But let's go step out. I'm gonna pull up the document in there, y'all. And but it's no sweat. Cause only thing they do, they just giving more confirmation and also give the evidence what we're talking about that these things do exist. They do try to cover and hide stuff. They want people to remain in darkness because they don't play fair. See, misery love company. They want people to join them in Sheol, but they forget they forget who we have behind us, the power behind us.
Hallelujah. You're absolutely right.
And that is you
And see you breaking up too.
who
Yeah, it's a breakup.
who was the son of God. He's the second Adam. And this will be so. So we will get through this lesson today because people need to know today about First Enoch chapter 73, and it would give them an understanding about all the other chapters that goes with it. Yeah, it's saying reconnect. That's what it's doing. It's just like I said, it's just them. They don't want people to know about this stuff. But his will be we're gonna be patient. We're gonna wait till it come on open, because when I check my internet, it's nothing wrong with the internet. Even with my phone, the spot where I got my internet at, even my phone
Mm-hmm.
pick up a great signal. So I know nothing wrong with the devices. It's them. They tripping.
Do you think that
So let me
people
go
are
ahead and share my
watching?
screen so y'all can see what I'm seeing. Everyone see.
They always watching.
Even on the Zoom meeting that we have?
So what we can do, like I said, y'all know I was trying to play the plan within a pen. Since they weren't funny, because my notes pull up fine. It just got that wrong with the notes.
That's why
Oh, now I know. I hit this first. Now that was on me. You hear me?
That's when I
Shalom?
get these notes.
Can y'all hear? Shalom? Shalom?
Yes,
Shalom.
I can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So y'all can hear me good?
Yes.
Yes, sis.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I just want to make sure before we start. As you see that little thing moving, right? It's nothing wrong with my notes. And it's nothing wrong with the internet. It's them tripping. But it's going to be all right.
You sure will be.
Get this. So I'll praise the Most High. We did everything in the beginning. Okay. I'm trying to get there. I know we were finished in verse 7. And we was going to look at the chart. Now I didn't do that. That was them.
So they watching us while we on a Zoom meeting?
Well, they watch through everything. Google, Windows, you see the colors? All of those are spy tools. Even your email is nothing sacred anymore. It's nothing private anymore.
Nope. Right.
And this is why you have to walk with Yah. Because we're in the Holy Kingdom. We know they listen. We know they listen to our conversations. That don't bother me because I know who protects me and who shields me from their wickedness. But they do little stuff like this to number one, they don't want people to know. Number two, they're trying to get you set so you can act out your character. But it's like they forget we know how to tap into the power. Okay. I'm about there. I see here. Okay, this is the part here. So what we just reviewed in verse 7, I put in the chart form because by putting the chart form, it really is going to help us to see these numbers clearer and to understand what verse 7 was saying about the 14 and a half parts and the 14 parts. It's saying about an additional 14 parts. So the best way to understand this, remember when we talked about in First Enoch chapter, I'm looking at this here, y'all, in this chart. In First Enoch chapter 74, we did some calculations. And in the calculation, what we learned that a moon month is actually 29.5 days. And if I subtract 15 days, because we know a calendar month can have 30 or 29, but for right now, for the sake of time, we know it takes a full moon up to 15 days. So if I subtract 15 days from 29.5, this is where you get that 14 and a half from. Do y'all see that? Because that half is usually rounded to the 30th day. So to look at the 15th day, another way to look at this, I was speaking, I put it on the moon, but I put it right here, 14.5. So on your 15th day, also known as your 14 and a half day. Okay, so that's known as my 14 and a half day. Remember math, you can round up. So within that day, she becomes full of light, a full moon, because she's getting an additional part. Remember on this day, on the new moon day, she only half of a part right here. Do y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. This part gets the other half. Let me go put my cursor in here so you can see this number better. So it's like a ratio of like 2 to 1. Because if I take 2 times 7.5, I get what, y'all?
15.
2 times 7.5. What I get?
15.
Huh?
15.
15. If I take 2 times 14, I mean, if I take 2 times 7, I get
14.
14. Do y'all see that?
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It goes with those verses right here. Let me go back up. So y'all can see the connection. Because what did you see? You have to meditate on it. For in verse 7 of First Enoch chapter 73, it said the moon become invisible. So the new moon or the new moon crescent become invisible. And remember that disc. Remember the disc. So we got divided in parts. So on her new moon day, she only has a sliver of light. You know that sliver of light is what 1/14th part, right? For a 14th day. Okay. So there's some remaining parts of her that's not lit. And that 1/14 represent 0.5. So it's letting us know there's an additional left that's not lit yet. And the additional is 14 parts and a half of them, or 14 parts and the half of one of them, which means it's 14 and a half. 14 and a half. So we add the half to the 14 and a half, we get what? 15. Do y'all see that?
Yes.
So we put that in our notes. Let's see here. That's right. So new moon become 15 parts here. Okay, that's in that part. I'm trying to make sure I'm putting this in the right part. So when we look at this part here, new moon day is a half. It's a half part of 1 part of light. Basically going equal to what? 0.5. 0.5 part. And when we get to the in a 15th day is 14.5. Why? If we add 0.5 days or part, days remain in a 15 days for I should put parts. I want to make sure I get my units right so you can understand what I'm talking about. Parts And the internet messing up. Okay, I'm back, y'all. I saw the internet messing up. Okay, so parts remaining in the 15th day is 14 and a half parts. Right? So if we take 0.5 parts plus 14.5 of light. Now all of that is coming together. So the first day is like half, then you're going to double. 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts, 5 parts. You're going to double. Okay, so let's go to the chart so you can see it. So now, before we go to the chart, we now understand what it means that the moon grows by an additional 14 parts. He's really talking about by a 14th part. Because what is a 14th part? Put it down here. Trying to see if I need to add it down here. Here we go. What is a 14th part? A 14th part is what, y'all? A half part of a moon's light is added. So that has been clarified. Or verified by First Enoch, chapter 23, verse 7. Everybody there?
Yes.
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 Yeah. Can everybody hear me?
No, I can.
Yes, sis.
Okay, I know it's my internet.
No, you're fine.
Okay, I'm back in. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, he
Yes.
attacking.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, a little
Shalom?
static.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little,
little bit.
breaking up, but
Shalom?
shalom.
Hello.
Yeah.
Shalom?
Shalom. You
Shalom.
sound, you breaking up a little bit.
Shalom?
Shalom.
Shalom.
So what I'm going to do, as y'all see, y'all know what's trying to work against us, but I always got a plan so y'all can get this information.
Yes.
Another recording will be coming.
She just went out completely.
Okay. Let me make sure this is recording. What we're going to do, we're going to press our way through this lesson. And if I have to do another recording on this lesson, then so be it. This lesson will get out. Okay, that's what's most important. So my family can hear me. We're going to keep on going, y'all. So the moon becomes 15 parts full of light. Okay. All right. So now that we got clarification on that, we can see how this chart will look. So we're going to walk through this chart. So the days of the moon, this is the date of the moon from the first day to the 15th day, which makes perfect sense. Okay. What it's saying to us on the first day, the moon get a half portion of light. And because we're dealing with 15 days instead of 14 days, your denominator, that's the number on the bottom, or your total of the pie would be 15 now. Okay. So when we look at the categories, let's walk through the categories. So the first day of your new moon, she would get a half portion of light. Okay. And if we convert that half portion of light, right, into a part, it'll be half of one part. It should be half. That's what it say, half of one part, okay? And then the fraction of that would be 1/15. And the simplest form of that fraction be 1/15. Okay, let's do another one. So on day 2 of the moon, in the 15th day, when she becomes a full moon, the part of the light she received, it now will increase to 1 part light. Remember, we're adding 0.5 to the number. Okay. As what is written, that's right. We got to read 1 John chapter 78, verse 8, because this is where I'm getting this information from. Okay. Oh, I'm jumping ahead again, y'all. Sorry. So on day 2 of the moon, she has 2 parts of moonlight in her. 2 parts. Okay. And we would convert that in a fraction. It is 2/15. 2/15. Okay. Then on day 3 of the moon, as you see, as we go down the column, we're going to add 0.5 3 times. We get 1/2. We convert it into a fraction. It'd be 3/15. 3/15. So now when we look at the half phase of the moon, notice here. On the 7th day, she is 3.5 parts of light. 3.5. When we convert that into a fraction, it is 7/15. And when we compare it to the sun, she is 1/15. I took 1/7 times 7/15. And the Father just reminded me, I did say I was going to come back in another video to confirm that number. So we're not going to talk anymore about the sun conversion. But let us keep going. As the moon continued to grow in light, as you see, when she becomes a full moon on the 15th day, she's going to get an additional part here, an additional part, which makes sense because the day before that full moon day is 14 parts. And now we add in the half, okay? And when we're converting the fraction to make, because it's a whole now, it's 15/15. Or shorter version of this is 5/5, because when I do my simplest fractions, I see a pattern. I noticed that on every 3rd day, I get in the simple fraction form, my denominator will be 5. It makes sense because it's a factor of 15. In other words, 5 can go into 15 3 times. So on the 3rd day of the moon, in the beginning of her month, the simplest fraction form I get is 1/5. Then on the 6th day, again, we're going in 3s, right? 2/5. Okay. Then on the 9th day, 3/5. Then on the 12th day, 4/5, until we get to a whole pie. Another pattern I see is the 1/3. I notice on the 5th day, in the simplest fraction form, she is 1/3 of light. Then on the 10th day, because it's going by 5s, adding 5 to that, she is 2/3 of light. And then on the 15th day, she becomes a whole light. Now we begin to understand 1 Enoch chapter 74, verse 13, or why we get the calculation number to be 29.5 in the moon's calendar. It's dealing with light. The time it takes her to become that amount of light. whether it's the new moon, half moon, or full moon. Okay. So another precept we need to look at is 1 Enoch chapter 78, verse 8. Okay. For it says, and in her waning, the moon decreases on the first day to 14 parts of her light, on the second, 13 parts of her light. Let me see if I put another chart down here. Okay, I did. On the third to the 12th, on the fourth to the 11th, on the fifth day to the 10th, on the sixth day to the 9th, on the seventh day to the 8th, on the 8th to the 7th, on the 9th to the 6th, on the 10th to 5, on the 11th to 4, on the 12th to 3, on the 13th to 2, on the 14th to the half of a seventh. Now this is the one you want to highlight, okay? Because now we're working backwards. And then it goes on to say, and all her remaining light disappear wholly on the 15th day. So let's put this in a chart form, okay? The key word here is that she is waning. So that means what? The moon is decreasing in her light, okay? So this is after the 15th day. Let me underline this so you can have that in your notes. Okay, so that's a big thing that in this verse is telling now that the moon is decreasing in light. It's following after the 15th day. Remember, this is verse 8. Verse 7 is showing you how she's increasing in light to become a full moon in 15 days. That's what verse 7 is showing you. Okay. So in verse 8 of 1 Enoch chapter 78, the moon is decreasing in light now. So that first day, she becomes 14 parts. So what I did a chart for y'all. So on the 16th day, which is day 1, she's going to decrease in light by half now. Okay, by half. All right. And the Father's telling me this: if I would add 7, because like I said, she's going to decrease from 7 to 0, as you see in this chart form. If I add 7, because we're in the second half of the month, and the second half of the month, y'all, start from the 16th day to the 30th day. See, the 30th is the tall, is the end. Okay, remember your Hebrew. Remember how the Father is. He is the first and the beginning. So he has the first and the beginning part in the month. All right. So this is the second half of his calendar month. All right. So if I take 7 right here, this number here, plus this 7.5, what do I get? 7 plus 7.5, I get 14.5 parts. Now we see the confirmation. So that additional part, an additional 14 is 1/14, which is 0.5. Now we can see this of what the prophet is saying. Let us go back. So when we read verse 78, verse 8, it's saying that the first day is 14 parts, which I have. First day, 14 parts. Then the second day is 13 parts. Second day, 13 parts. And this pattern will continue until I get to day 14. Because on day 14, it would be to what? The half of a 7. The half of a 7. And the half of the 7, when I take 1/2 times 1/7, I would get 115. 115. Okay. I know, and it's kind of confusing because in the other chart I have 114, but this no, it's one of a part. It's half of that part. So what I'm saying is going to be half of the 15 parts. Okay, that's what you're basically saying. If I have to make any correction, what I do when we meet on the next class meeting, I have this chart updated, but this is what I have so far. Okay, meaning that the moon is going to be a waning crescent of light. She's going to be that sliver of light that we see in the heavens. Now, you'll usually see this phase in the latter part of the night up to morning and noon. And when you see this phase, you would know that it's the ending, soon the month would be ending. And when you face it, the light would be on your left-hand side. Now, keep in mind, she does turn, she does move, okay? But when you're facing the moon and she's upright, it'll be that light, that silver crescent, that waning silver crescent would be on your left-hand side, okay? And you usually see that phase in the latter part of the night up to noon, and then she'll disappear, okay? Then in that same verse, it says, all her remaining light, so whatever light she has remaining will disappear. All of it will be gone on the 15th day, which is 0. 0. Okay. Now let's go back up before I go to verse 8. There were some facts I want to give y'all. So some important facts to remember. 1/7 part of sunlight is divided into 7 portions. For the moon's light, okay, so y'all see here again, the same thing is 7. And there's a precept for that verse, and it's right here. We make a space. Okay. And the precept for that to confirm is in 1 Enoch chapter 74, verse 3. For it says, in single 7 parts, she accomplished all her light in the east, and in single 7 parts, accomplished all her darkness in the west. Okay. Now I know that half is confusing y'all. What is saying? Here's the key to remember for this one. It's talking about that 7 parts she gets from the sun. That's what it's saying. Okay. I'm just checking something on my phone, y'all. All right. That's what that's talking about. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm back. I'm sorry about that. So that's what it's talking about. All right. So in the east, she receives all her light from the sun. But in the west, that's when she start to lose some of her light or start to become dark. Okay. And notice here it said the in single 7 parts. That's a key word. Single 7 parts. Again, the Father speaking that number 7. And we'll talk more about that verse when we get to that chapter. Okay. But as you see, the Father works in the numbers of 7. with these lights. Another important fact is that half of one part of the moonlight is equal to day 1 of the moon, also known as the new moon day. Okay, so we can see it as 1/14 or 1/15, 1/14 or 1/15. Or should I say 14.5? Okay. That's another way to look at it too. Another important fact is that one part of the moon's light can be seen as I think I might need to take that out. Yeah, I need to remove that one. Okay. Another important fact is that a waxing half moon, which can be written as half or 7/14 or 7 portions or parts of the moonlight, or as a half of 1/7 part of the sun's light. So when you look at the chart for a waxing half moon, as the moon increases in light, you would see on day 7, she would have 3.5 portions of light, okay, which is what 7 portions of the moonlight. Okay, remember it's a total of 14 days. So halfway there, half of 14 is 7. Will be converted into a fraction. Remember, parts over whole. We're taking 7 slices, 7 parts of light from the moon's total light. It'll be 7/14. When I write that in the simplest fraction form, I get a half. And another way of writing this is a half, because we know a full moon is 1/7 of the sun. So it'll be 1/14. 1/14. Okay. And I know looking at these numbers can be confused. That's why I say you have to separate your units. This part here is dealing with the unit of the sun. We'll be comparing amount of moonlight to the sunlight. But this part above is dealing with the units of the moonlight. Okay. Then for review of math, 14/14 means what? 1 whole pi or 1 whole moon when she's fully illuminated. Another way to write this is 7/7, because I got 7/7. I see this as a 2-to-1 ratio. So if I take 2 divided by 14, you get what? 7 parts of light. So that's how I got that number, 7/7. Or another way of writing this are 7 portions of the moonlight, which is basically, it's going to equal to 1/7 of the sun's light. Even with that decimal, y'all, don't let it trip you up. Just know this: when the moon becomes full, whether it's the 14th day or the 15th day, it is still equal to 7 to that 7 portion of the sun's light. Okay. So I'm put this in here. I know it's a single 7 parts equals 1/7 portion of the sunlight. Because it goes on to say, in a single 7 portions, she accomplished all her light in the east. That means she's full. She's getting all her light. And in the single 7 portion, she accomplished all her darkness in the west. So on a dark moon day, she's become empty of light. So I need to put that in here for our notes. So in the east, she's a full moon. In the west, she's a dark moon. So she's going to lose that 7 portion of light when she's a dark moon. When she's in the east, she becomes that 7 portion of light. All right. Now we can go on to verse 6. It's very important that we know that. Now we're going to stand verse 6. Now verse 6 says, and when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to the 1/7 part and the half thereof. So what it's telling us, whatever she receives for the son, y'all, it's going to equal to that amount. Okay. So what the moon receives will equal the same amount of light. That's what this is saying unto us. So the 1/7 for her light, okay? What that basically means is that it's going. So I know what I want to say. It's basically going to equal to y'all. Let's see here. It basically is going to say that the moonlight would be 1/7 part and a half of the moonlight. It's something that I thought I had with this verse, but let me check. Okay. It's talking about a particular phase. What is the 1/7 part she received of the half of her light? And we've been talking about this throughout the whole day. Let's go to the chart so you can see what I'm talking about. When she received the 1/7 part and half of it, it'll give us 114. Okay? 114. And we already know what 114 is. The new moon day. It's just the new moon crescent. This is why when we read verse 6 and we go to verse 7, it continues to give us more characteristics about the new moon. So just to review on verse 6, what this verse is saying unto us. Whatever the amount of light she received, which is 1/7 part of the half of her light, would be the same in her. So she's not going to lose any light. What she receives from the sun, she will maintain or keep. Okay. And that light that she receives from the sun is going to equal to 114 or 115, which is basically she becomes the new moon. Okay. I do want to put in that thereof is talking half her light. That's what it's talking about. So we take 1/7 times half again, and we get 114. It's based just a new moon. Okay. Now we can go to verse 8. To wrap it up, verse 8 says, and she rises on that day with exactly a 7 part. So again, it's confirming it. Okay, what we just read in verse 6 is confirming again. So she rises that day exactly a 7 part and comes out and receives from the rising of the sun. So she's going to start pushing herself away from the sun. She's not going to rise with him. Okay. And in her remaining days, she becomes bright in the remaining 13. Okay. So to understand that part, what does it mean that in her remaining days, she become bright in 13 parts? Well, it's already telling us she's 1/7 part. That means she's a part 1. Okay. So a part has already went out. So when we do the math, I'm going to see, I'm trying to see right here. This is where we at, y'all. Okay. Because the moonlight equals 7 portions of the sunlight. Now I need to put that in here so y'all can really see this. We'll center it. Oh, full moon, which is 1/7, equals 7 portions of the sunlight. So do not let that half trip you up, because even on the 15th day, her amount of light is still going to equal to 7 portions of the sun's light. That's very important. And this is why we see in what 1/7, 2/7, like in a simple fraction form. Okay, but in the complex fraction form, you see 2/14, 4/14, that kind of thing. But I see that the common theme is 7. So what this letting me know that when we see the number 14, the number 14 is a number of 7, because 2 times 7 is what? 14. Okay, it's just how you look at things. But if I was simplifying as a simple fraction form, it just helps you to see the number 7 better. Okay. So to keep this simple, so you won't get confused with that decimal that we have to deal with. Okay. To keep it simple, it would be, just know this, a full moon equal to 1/7. And I know I wrote this wrong. Forgive me, y'all. Oh, I did. I wrote this wrong. A full moon equals 1/7 portion of the sunlight. And the sunlight equals 7 portions of light. And it's 7. Okay. Forgive me, y'all. My apologies. All right. So look at verse 8 again. When she rises on that day with the 7 part, she's going to, as a new moon, it makes sense, because the new moon is following the sun. Remember, a full moon don't follow the sun. She's going to be opposite of the sun. Okay. All right. So when she rises in the day exactly a 7 part and comes out, receives from the rising of the sun, in her remaining days, she comes bright in the remaining 13 parts. So I know the way this is written, you would think it would be a full moon. But the reason why I say this is not dealing with the full moon, it's actually dealing with the new moon crescent, because it said in her remaining days, right here, in her days that she has left. English is not the best. I think it could be better with the way they're written it, but it is what it is. Okay. So because increase in light, this is how I know that the 13 days that it's talking about is dealing with, let me show you, from the second day of the moon to the 14th day. Because if I count that, I would get 13. The simplest way to do this, you can take one day, which is the new moon day, minus 14. Okay. Okay. I'm back in there. Sorry. So where was I? So the simple to do that, I can take 14 days minus 1 day, which is the new moon day, equals 13 days left. 13 days left. Okay. 1 day, which is what? New moon day. Give me 13 days left. So she has 13 more parts she has to pick up. Okay. 13 more parts she has to pick up to become that full moon on the 14th day. So let's get this clear so you can see this. I'm going to put a row so you can actually see what I'm talking about. See, format. We're going to insert a row above. So, verse 8, dealing with the 13 parts. Count which parts remain. Don't do because this is the new one. Okay, and minimize this a little bit. So I'm gonna make this first block dark. Where we go. Okay, I'm back on. Okay, let me darken this. All right, then we're gonna start counting the 13 remaining parts. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now you can see it. Okay. So when we meet again, I'm going to clean this chart up just to make sure everything is clear and go along the verses. Okay. So you can understand the information we went over. So we just reviewed First Enoch chapter 73. We picked up from verse 5 through 8 with the precepts. And I am aware this is English because sometimes the way it's worded, it can be a little confusing. But just know this, all you got to know is this, that a full moon is a 7-part, 1/7-part portion of the sun's light. And the sun's light is 7 portions of light. So that's why the verse says she is 7. This is why the verse say he is 7 times brighter than the moon, or 7-fold brighter than the moon. Okay. And when the moon get her sliver of the pie from the sun, she take that portion of light and she divide it up until she can grow into that full moon. Okay. All right. I hope y'all enjoy this lesson. We do apologize for the technical difficulties, but we know what was going on. They didn't want you to know the information. And I will come back to y'all again on the heathen day, known as the Saturnine day, to confirm if all this information in the charts are correct, or to clear up any errors that was made. But I hope y'all see the connection, especially with this half decimal. It has to do a lot with the number of days, the calculated number of days, or the exact moon timing of her herself. That's why we have that 0.5 there. Okay. Hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm just trying to get to my little picture with the Hebrew moon phases. Okay. Because that is what we should be going by. We got to stop following these heathens now. There we go. No longer this. This is what we need to be following now. Let me blow this up. So my brothers and sisters, continue to preach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it's truly at hand. Make sure the people receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10, and baptize the people in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. The lambs set the example of the water baptism and the Holy Spirit baptism, and the apostles continued them both. If you have no one to baptize you, you can do it yourself. The water is the second witness in the earth, and the heavens and the earth are a witness unto our Father. This is how you exercise your faith with works. If you have not received the Holy Spirit baptism, the Father made that simple too. All you have to do is ask in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, and he will give it unto you according to your heart, your faith, and your works. We hope you enjoy this lesson. If the video don't come out clear, then I probably may do another one. All according to my Father's will. We love you all. And for those who want to join us to continue to learn about the Most High Calendar and what his prophets have to say about his calendar, check the video description box to call for the number, and directions will be sent to you on how to join us. We love you all, and shalom. Okay.